The host wanted to make an example out of Stallone. Instead, he became the perfect example of why people don't trust mainstream media anymore. The studio lights were bright, too bright. The kind that made people sweat even when they weren't nervous. But Sylvester Stallone wasn't nervous. He sat back in his chair, legs apart, shoulders relaxed, waiting. The audience murmured, some clutching their phones, ready to record. They knew something was about to happen. Across from him sat Ethan Caldwell, a sharp-dressed TV host known for his progressive slant and love of gotcha moments. Head-made politicians, activists, and Hollywood elites stumble before. But Stallone? That was new territory. Ethan leaned forward, a smug grin creeping across his face. "Mr. Stallone," he began, voice smooth, rehearsed. "You've always been a symbol of American toughness. But don't you think that kind of masculinity is outdated? In today's world, shouldn't we redefine strength to be more inclusive?" A few chuckles rippled through the audience. Ethan's fans, the ones expecting him to trap Stallone in his own words. Stallone blinked. Slowly, deliberately. Then he leaned in, elbows on his knees, exhaling through his nose. "You mean, do I think being tough is a bad thing now?" Ethan smirked. "Well, I think we're past the era where men need to punch their way through problems. Don't you think the world has moved on from that kind of outdated thinking?" Silence. The kind that makes people shift in their seats. Stallone scratched his chin. Then he laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a deep, genuine belly laugh. "You're serious?" he finally said. "You think toughness is a problem?" Ethan straightened his tie. "I think it can be toxic when it discourages vulnerability, yes." Stallone nodded, as if processing. Then he leaned back, stretching his arms across the chair. "Let me ask you something," he said, voice calm but deliberate. "If someone broke into your house tonight, do you want a tough guy in there? Or do you want someone who's gonna sit down and talk about their feelings?" A few gasps. A few scattered claps. Ethan opened his mouth, but Stallone wasn't done. "See, toughness isn't about punching walls or yelling the loudest. It's about standing your ground when life knocks you down. It's about protecting your family. It's about discipline, respect, hard work. And if you think the world doesn't need that anymore," he shook his head, "then I don't know what world you're living in, man." Ethan forced a chuckle, but something flickered in his eyes, hesitation. This wasn't going as planned. Still, he wasn't giving up. "But don't you think Hollywood, your own movies, have glorified violence as the only solution?" Stallone didn't hesitate. "Hollywood glorifies a lot of things. You ever seen a movie where a guy saves the world by filling out paperwork?" Laughter. Real laughter. Even some of Ethan's crew smirked. But Ethan wasn't done. He adjusted his cue cards, searching for the perfect counterpunch. "All right, let's talk about influence. You've built a career playing tough, no-nonsense characters. Do you ever think about the message that sends? Don't you feel a responsibility to promote a more progressive kind of hero?" The way he emphasized progressive told the audience exactly where he was going. Stallone smirked. He sat up, rolling his shoulders like a boxer getting ready for the next round. "First of all, I make movies. Movies ain't real. You know that, right?" He raised an eyebrow. "I mean, last time I checked, I never actually went 15 rounds with Apollo Creed. Never took down a whole army with a red bandana and a knife. Never ran up those Philly steps and single-handedly fixed people's problems." A few more chuckles. But Ethan stayed firm. "Sure, but movies shape culture. Don't you think we should be giving kids heroes who solve problems without violence?" Stallone exhaled through his nose. "Man, you ever see Rocky? He shook his head. That whole movie was about getting back up when life knocks you down. It wasn't about beating people up. It was about heart, perseverance. And Rambo? He shrugged. That guy just wanted to be left alone. If people had let him walk through town and mind his business, none of that would have happened. The applause was louder now. Ethan's jaw clenched. He was losing control. He shifted tactics. Okay, fair enough. But let's talk about America right now. We're questioning what it means to be a man, what it means to be tough. And some say your version, the old school don't show weakness mindset, is part of the problem. That it creates more division than unity. What do you say to that? Stallone let the question hang. He tapped his fingers on the armrest, eyes locked on Ethan. You ever meet a firefighter? Ethan blinked. Excuse me? A firefighter. A cop. A guy in the military. Hell, even a single mom working 2 jobs to keep food on the table. You ever talk to those people? Ethan hesitated. You think toughness is their problem? Stallone shook his head. No, man. Their toughness is what keeps the world running. The problem isn't toughness. The problem is people acting like strength is dangerous. Weakness ain't a virtue, pal. Strength with control, that's what keeps people safe. A low whistle from somewhere in the back. The room had shifted. Ethan was losing his grip. But Stallone raised a hand. Not aggressive, just enough to make it clear he wasn't finished. You want to know the real problem? He leaned in. It's not toughness. It's people who talk about toughness like it's the enemy, while living in a world built and protected by tough people. Dead silence. Ethan swallowed. He had another question lined up, but the audience had turned. They weren't nodding with him anymore. They were waiting for Stallone's next words. And Stallone? He wasn't letting up. If the world ever really goes sideways, he said, voice low, you're gonna be real happy guys like me are still around. The clip went viral before the interview even ended. Stallone destroys woke host. Hollywood legend exposes the media's hypocrisy. Why we still need real men like Stallone. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. It was everywhere. Ethan's network scrambled for damage control. He tweeted about healthy debate and respecting different views. Nobody cared. Meanwhile, Stallone, he didn't post a thing. No statements. No victory lap. He just went on with his day. Because unlike the people arguing in the comment sections, he had nothing to prove. But the real impact, that was just beginning. Because this wasn't about Stallone versus Ethan Caldwell. It was about a world that had forgotten what toughness actually meant. And one man who reminded them.